I worked the night shift at Riverbend Hospital a few months ago. I've been a nurse for over 10 years, so I thought I knew what to expect. The nights were quiet, just the sound of machines and the occasional rustle of sheets. I liked it there. It felt safe, especially after my recent separation. But then things changed. On my third night, I was doing my usual checks. I was in room 205 when a sudden chill swept over me. I brushed it off, thinking the air conditioning was cranked too high. But then I heard whispers coming from somewhere down the hall. I paused, heart racing. I figured it was just my mind playing tricks. The next few shifts, the whispers returned. They were clearer each time. I would stand outside rooms, trying to catch any words I could make sense of. They sounded urgent, but I couldn't understand them. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. One night, passing by room 203, I thought I saw something move in my peripheral vision. I turned quickly. Nothing was there but shadows. It made my skin crawl. Things escalated when I discovered an old patient record in the storage room. I opened it to find a photo of a child. A boy, maybe 7 or 8, with dark hair and sad eyes. I felt sick to my stomach. I wondered who this child was and why I had never heard of him being at Riverbend. Every night I worked, I tried to convince myself it was all in my head. I was stressed. The whispers kept growing louder when I was alone, echoing off the walls. I started checking locks, peering around corners. My heart raced, but I thought it was normal nurse anxiety. One night, just before my shift ended, I stood at the nurse's station. That S when the murmurs returned. They were even louder. I felt cold sweat creep down my spine. I thought I heard one voice say, "Help us." I shut my eyes, hoping it would go away. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned slowly, expecting my coworker. Instead, I saw a child at the end of the hall. He was staring right at me, but when I blinked, he was gone. I still don't know what to make of that night. Was it a hallucination? Was I just too tired? I often wonder what the voices wanted. Were they trying to reach out? Who was the boy? I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong at Riverbend. The whispers linger in my mind. I wish I could forget, but they're still there, hovering on the edge of my thoughts. Sometimes, when I close my eyes at night, I hear them again calling out to me. I don't know if I'll ever get to the bottom of it. The next night, I arrived at Riverbend with a knot in my stomach. I had barely slept, haunted by the image of the child. I told myself I needed to focus on my job. I put on my scrubs and took a deep breath. The familiar smell of antiseptic mingled with my anxiety. As I began my shift, the hospital felt unusually still. The lights flickered overhead, and I shook my head, brushing it off. I couldn't let my mind dwell on the whispers. I had patients to care for. During my rounds, I entered the break room for a quick coffee. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from a coworker, asking if I'd seen anything strange. My heart raced. I replied hesitantly, asking what she meant. She told me about weird noises she had heard during her shift, loud thumps and voices, but she shrugged it off as the old building settling. "Just the pipes, right?" she said. But the chill in my spine disagreed. When my shift started again, I decided to check in on room 203. That was where I had seen the shadow. Maybe if I faced that room, I could shake off this feeling. I stood outside, staring at the closed door. The whispers echoed louder in my mind. "Help us." Finally, I twisted the doorknob and pushed the door open. The room was empty. The bed was made, but some toys lay scattered on the floor. I felt a strange pull to the toys. One was a small, worn-out teddy bear. I picked it up, feeling its soft fur against my palm. That S when I saw something move again, this time in the corner of the room. I turned quickly, but it was just a reflection of a shadow on the wall. Still, I shivered. I glanced back at the bear. Was it connected to the boy? Something compelled me to investigate further. I pulled out my phone to check the patient records for room 203. But then the screen flickered and went black. I cursed under my breath, tapping it against my palm. The whispers grew louder, suddenly overwhelming. Frantic voices cried out in despair. I hurried out of the room, clutching the teddy bear tightly. My heart hammered as I made my way back to the nurse's station. As I approached, I noticed a figure standing at the end of the hall. A shadow. My breath hitched. It was the boy again, only this time he was closer. His sad eyes locked onto mine, and I felt my legs freeze. He looked directly at me, his mouth moving, but I couldn't hear him. The whispers morphed into a deafening roar around us. Before I could react, he turned and bolted down the hall. I followed instinctively, adrenaline pumping. My heart raced as I chased after him. But he was fast, darting around corners like a wisp of smoke. "Wait," I yelled, desperation creeping into my voice. I ran, but just as I rounded the last corner, I skidded to a stop. Everything went dark. Panic flared. I was alone in the blackness, surrounded by silence. The whispers faded, leaving only a dull thud echoing in my chest. I braced myself, nowhere to go. Just as I felt the darkness closing in, I remembered the boy's eyes. He wanted something. I needed to find out what. Before I could finish the thought, a light flickered back on, illuminating the corridor. I stood there, breathless. The boy was gone again, but a new resolve filled me. I had to uncover the truth about Riverbend. I had to know who the child was and what he needed. I took a shaky breath and let the light fill the hallway. It felt like a safety blanket, but I knew it was only temporary. I had just chased after a ghost, and now the hospital was still, save for the distant beeping of monitors. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I wasn't alone. Determined to find out more, I decided to investigate room 203 again. I had the bear with me, its soft fur grounding me. I stepped back inside the room, scanning every corner for anything unusual. I felt absurdly foolish, talking to a stuffed animal. "What do you want from me?" I whispered, holding the bear up. That S when I noticed it. A flicker on the wall, almost imperceptible. I squinted, and then I saw it, an outline almost like a drawing. It was faint but unmistakable, like a child's drawing of a house. I stepped closer, my heart racing, racking my brain as to how this got here. The walls of Riverbend were bare, painted over countless times. Who had made this? Had the boy? I reached out, tracing the outline with my fingers. As soon as I touched it, the whispers returned, but this time they were clearer. "Help us! Help us!" I recoiled, stumbling back. This was too much. I needed to talk to someone who could make sense of it. Rushing out of the room, I hurried to the nurse's station, hoping my coworkers might be seen or heard something too. Kathy, a night shift nurse who was always practical, scanned me with concern in her eyes. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, a slight joke on her lips. "I think I might have," I replied, anxiety tainting my voice. I took a moment to collect my thoughts. "Have you noticed anything off tonight? Any strange noises or sightings?" She raised an eyebrow, but then nodded slowly. "There's been a couple of creepy things. The old pediatric wing has some reputation. You know the legend?" I hesitated. "What legend?" "About a boy who died there years ago," she said. "They say you can still see him wandering the halls." I felt my heart drop. "My boy, what happened to him?" I asked softly. "They say he was sick. They couldn't save him." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "Some believe he's looking for help, trying to guide others like him." My fingers tightened around the bear. "And the whispers I heard?" Kathy waved a dismissive hand, but there was a flicker of concern in her eyes. "Just stories, Shauna. Ghost stories. But there's truth in every story. Isn't there?" I wanted to dismiss her words, but deep down, I knew something was off. There was history here I hadn't uncovered yet. Then I felt it. A cold breeze sweeping through the room. I turned toward the door. The air felt thicker, saturated with desperation. I instinctively clutched the teddy bear tighter and made my way toward the pediatric wing. As I stepped closer, a sudden realization hit me. I wasn't just chasing a shadow. I was standing at the edge of something much darker than I ever anticipated, and I needed to know what lay ahead. Before I could step through the threshold, a loud crash echoed from the depths of the pediatric wing. My heart sank as instinct kicked in. Someone or something was in there. With a deep breath, I moved forward. The darkness of the pediatric wing seemed to thicken as I stepped inside. The crash had come from deeper within, sending a chill skittering down my spine. I reached for the light switch, but it flickered ominously, barely illuminating the corridor. There were echoes of children's laughter bouncing off the walls, warped and distant. It made my stomach twist. I hesitated, my heart pounding. I could feel the weight of anticipation, like stepping onto a roller coaster just before the drop. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely breaking the silence. No reply. The laughter faded, leaving a heavy quiet in its place. Each step felt like I was entering a long-forgotten dream, the kind that doesn't end well. As I approached the end of the hallway, I caught sight of a faint white figure at the far end. It stood at the entrance of what looked like an old playroom, just off the main corridor. My breath hitched. Was it the boy? The figure shifted slightly, and I could see it was a small child. I squinted, trying to make out more details, but the dim light seemed to distort everything. "Hey," I tried again, trying to keep my voice steady. "Are you lost?" I expected it to disappear, but it stood there, still as a statue. I took a step forward. "I'm here to help. What do you need?" That S when the whispers returned, swirling around me like unseen shadows. Help us," they cried. My heart raced, felt more urgent now, this sense of desperation. I moved closer, the teddy bear feeling heavier in my grip. The child's face was obscured, but I could sense a yearning in its stance. "What happened?" I urged, stepping into the playroom. The room was small and cramped, filled with faded toys and restlessly cobwebbed corners. I groped in the darkness for light. My hand brushed against a small lamp. I switched it on. The bulb flickered and, for a brief moment, the room flooded with soft yellow light. That S when I saw it, a series of handprints stained on the wall, barely visible against the peeling paint. They were small, smudged, and led toward an old closet at the back. My breath caught in my throat. I glanced at the figure, eager to ask who they were, but it was gone. I spun around, looking for any trace of the child. Panic bubbled in my chest. "Wait, don't go." I inhaled sharply as I approached the closet. It felt like it was holding secrets, a history that needed to be unearthed. I reached for the door handle but hesitated, my instincts screaming at me. What if I was not ready for what lay behind that door? Then the lights flickered again, plunging me back into darkness. My pulse thudded in my ears. In that moment, all I could hear were the urgent whispers, growing louder. Help us," before I had time to react. The closet door creaked open on its own. I stood frozen, a mix of dread and curiosity washing over me. What awaited me inside? This was no longer just about a lost child. It was about something deeper, something that wanted to be found. Summoning all my courage, I peered inside, ready to face whatever lay beyond. The closet door swung open with an eerie creak, revealing an abyss of darkness within. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. My instinct was to slam it shut and run, but something drew me closer. I leaned inside, my senses heightened. The stench of stale air and mold assaulted my nostrils. I could barely make out the shapes of old toys and blankets, cluttered together like forgotten memories. Before I could get a closer look, a sudden noise jolted me, a soft giggle, barely a whisper, echoing from the far corner. "Hello?" I managed to call out, but my voice felt small, swallowed by the uncertainty. The whispers from before were back, but now they seemed clearer. "Find us, please find us," as I fumbled for my phone, hoping the light would cut through the darkness. A flicker of movement caught my eye. Out of the shadows, a pale hand reached out from the back of the closet. My heart raced. Was this the same child I had seen before? "Help us," the hand withdrew slightly, retreating into the shadows. My heart pounded as I felt torn. Part of me wanted to flee, while another urged me to reach out, to understand. I switched on my phone's flashlight, the beam cutting through the gloom. Just as I focused on the hand, I froze. It was small, too small to belong to an adult, and streaked with dirt, as if it had been clawing its way through something hidden. I just stared, feeling the weight of the moment. "Don't be scared." The voice was soft, a gentle echo that made me question my sanity. I stepped closer, peeking further inside the closet. The floor was littered with what seemed like crumpled drawings, children's artwork, depicting colorful playgrounds and happy faces. "What is this place?" I murmured. "Where we play, where we hide," came the faint reply, tainted with sorrow. My skin prickled. The laughter was back now, echoing off the walls like a cruel joke. Panic swelled inside me, battling against a sense of responsibility. I knelt down, trying to sift through the drawings. Among them was one that stood out. A child sitting beneath an old tree, its branches twisted and dark. My breath hitched as I recognized the tree from the hospital's garden. It had a sinister reputation among the staff, said to be the spot where late-night mischief turned into tragedy. Suddenly, the whispers shifted, now urgent and insistent. "Find him. Please find him." I looked back towards the closet, but the hand had vanished. The light flickered again, not just in the closet but throughout the room, casting long shadows. My instincts screamed that I was no longer alone. "Get out." A rush of adrenaline ignited my body as I scrambled to my feet. The heavy feeling of dread settled back in as I backed away. In the chaos, I caught sight of another figure, this time a shadow moving near the entrance of the playroom. I froze, feeling that I was being watched. What had I stumbled into? Who was I meant to find? I turned to escape, but the whispers followed me, relentless. Help us," and then everything went dark. I jolted awake, my heart racing. The stillness was oppressive. I blinked, disoriented, as the dim glow of my phone's screen illuminated the closet door before me. Somehow I had collapsed just outside it. I scrambled to my feet, my breath coming in quick bursts. The playroom was silent. The whispers had faded, but the air felt electric, as if waiting for something to happen. I stepped cautiously back toward the closet. There was an odd sense of dread mixed with curiosity. I needed answers. I could see the outline of the closet door, slightly ajar, and I hesitated before pushing it open again. The shadows seemed to cling to the corners of the room as I stepped inside. "Please, don't be afraid," the voice came again, softer this time but undeniably there. It came from deeper within the closet. "You have to help us." "Who are you?" I called out, my voice echoing in the small space. "What do you want?" Silence fell thick and heavy. For a moment, I wondered if I would get no answer. But then, a hollow laugh broke through. "Find him or we can't play anymore." I instinctively stepped closer to the back of the closet. The drawings scattered all over the floor caught my eye once more. My pulse quickened as I sorted through them. In the dim light, I spotted another drawing, this one with jagged lines and darker colors. Unlike the others, it depicted a child with wild hair and eyes like deep wells. Below it, scrawled in a childish handwriting, were the words, "He watches from the tree." I felt a chill run down my spine. Suddenly, I remembered the stories about the old tree. It had been said that some who dared to sit beneath it would never return. My stomach knotted. I had to get to that tree. The laughter returned, but this time it felt sinister. "You're too late," they taunted, mixed with the sound of tiny feet scampering around me in the dark. Staggering back, I tripped over a pile of toys, falling hard against a shelf. A pair of eyes reflected the faint glow of my phone, and I gasped, scrambling to regain my balance. Panic surged as shadows shifted menacingly. I needed to escape before whatever it was trapped me in this nightmare. Once again, I turned to leave but felt a cold grip on my shoulder. I whirled around, half expecting to see a child, but instead found nothing, just darkness. "Help us," the whisper pleaded, echoing out into the void. My heart raced, caught between the compulsion to run and the urge to help. And then I saw it, a flash of movement by the closet door. That S when I noticed it. The outlines of small figures, barely visible, lurking just beyond the light. My breath caught in my throat. "Please, we're trapped," they cried in unison, voices overlapping, blending into a chorus that filled my ears. I stumbled back against the wall, feeling my resolve falter. Whatever was happening here, it was escalating. I realized that I hadn't just stumbled upon a mystery. I had landed in the middle of something far more dangerous. With newfound determination, I stepped toward the shadows. If there were lost children here, then I needed to do everything I could to find them. I was in too deep to turn back. "Show yourselves," I yelled, and the laughter abruptly stopped, replaced by a silence thicker than before. I felt breaths around me, but the figures remained hidden. And then, just as suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the darkness, a distinct voice I recognized. "You shouldn't have come here," fear clawed at my insides. I realized I had disturbed something that wanted to stay hidden. But now I was in too deep, and this was just the beginning. I felt a heat rising in my chest, mixing with a wave of nausea. I recognized that voice. It was my brother S. He had disappeared years ago, leaving behind nothing but whispers and no explanation. My mind was racing, trying to sort through the chaos. Was this real? A trick of my imagination? "Why are you here?" I choked out, the words barely escaping my lips. "What do you want?" The closet trembled slightly, as if responding to my distress. The small figures became more defined, shifting anxiously in the shadows. I could barely see their faces, but their eyes, reflective like glass, held an innocent terror that pierced me. "Help us!" They whimpered again, urgency filling their voices. "Yes, coming." "Who is coming?" I demanded, my heart racing faster than I thought possible. I felt trapped, both by fear and a need to understand. I couldn't just stand there. I had to break through this suffocating darkness. "Run!" The children screamed, and without thinking, I bolted deeper into the closet, following their whispers. The air thickened around me, and panic surged. I turned to look back, but the entrance seemed smaller now, swallowed by the shadows that danced and warped. "Find him!" they cried, echoing in unison. "You have to find him before he takes us away." The words struck me hard. I had no idea who they meant, but the urgency grew, filling me with a desperate need to act. I pushed forward, searching for any sign or clue. The drawings scattered across the floor felt almost alive, their colors shifting under the weak light of my phone. That S when I noticed something nestled against the closet wall, a wooden box, partly obscured by the drawings. Trembling, I knelt down and pried it open. Inside was a small, rusted key and a folded piece of paper. I tugged at it, feeling my heart race again. My fingers fumbled as I unfolded the paper. Scrawled in a shaky hand were the words, "The tree holds the answer." Suddenly, the laughter returned, louder this time, echoing in a twisted melody all around me. It sent chills through me, but I couldn't focus on that right now. My attention was on the key and the urgency in the kids' voices. I pounded back toward the closet door, but a force held me in place, as if the shadows had come alive, grinding against me. Panic clawed at my throat. "You're too late. The tree is waiting," the chorus shrieked. "No," I screamed, fighting against the dread that curled in my stomach. "I can help you." But the laughter morphed into something sinister, and, as I struggled against the grip of the dark, the light of my phone flickered and died. I heard the rustling, footsteps small and hurried. The kids were trying to get away. Then, in the fleeting moment of darkness, I felt the cold grip of something else, a sinister presence slithering around me, breathing in my ear, drawing closer. And then everything went silent. The shadows seemed to close in, swallowing the last remnants of light. I was left alone, trapped in the darkness, with no idea what came next. The silence was suffocating. I stood frozen in the pitch-black closet, the weight of the dark pressing against my chest. My breath came in quick, shallow gasps. I thought I would suffocate, trapped in this nightmare. I fumbled for my phone, praying for just a flicker of light, anything to chase the darkness away, but it was useless. Then, something unexpected happened. A cool breeze rippled through the space, brushing against my cheek like a whisper. I felt the pull of something, almost magnetic, drawing me deeper into the closet. The sensation surprised me and stirred a flicker of determination inside. I had to keep moving. I took a tentative step forward, my foot colliding with a pile of drawings on the floor. "I'm coming," I whispered, a shaky promise to the children. I focused on their voices in my mind. Help us. Find him. The tree holds the answer. Maybe the tree was a clue, a starting point. I pushed forward into the dark. Suddenly, a flickering light appeared ahead, illuminating a small opening between clothes hanging from the closet rod. It felt unreal, like a portal leading somewhere. I squeezed through, heart pounding. As I stepped out, I found myself in an unfamiliar room that felt eerily familiar. The walls were plastered with more drawings, their colors vibrant against the faded wallpaper. It was a child's room, my brother's room. My heart dropped. I hadn't seen it since before he vanished. I felt a mix of nostalgia and dread flooding through me. I was drawn to the corner where a wooden treehouse stood, its wood aged and splintered. I approached it cautiously. Memories flickered like the dying light of my phone. I recalled nights spent in that treehouse, the laughter of my brother and our friends. It holds the answer, I thought again, desperation filling me. I crouched down and examined the treehouse, searching for anything relevant. That S when I saw it. A carving, barely visible in the shadows, etched into the wood. Find me under the tree. Under the tree, I mumbled to myself. A chill raced down my spine. My mind raced back to the note the tree mentioned again. My instinct told me it was important. I turned, scanning the room for any hint of where this tree could be. Before I could decide, a sudden gust of wind swept through the room, chilling my bones. The door creaked open, and I felt a presence behind me, heavy and looming. I turned slowly, feeling fear creep up my spine. A tall, shadowy figure stood at the entrance. It was featureless but radiated an aura of malicious intent. I felt my breath hitch in my throat as it locked its gaze on me, its intention clear. The children's urgent cries echoed in my mind again. Yes, coming. My back pressed against the treehouse as I searched for an escape. I'm gonna find the tree, I told myself. But the figure stepped closer, the shadows around it writhing like living creatures. I had to act quickly. I was running out of time, and whatever it was wanted me. The door of the treehouse behind me felt like the only means to escape. I gathered my courage and bolted toward it, the urgency of the children's cries pushing me forward. I swung the door open, and just before I stepped inside, I heard a voice, deeper and more distorted than before. You can't escape me. The last remnants of light flickered. Then everything went dark again. I gasped as darkness enveloped me, the weight of it crushing and oppressive. I stumbled forward, disoriented. Instincts kicked in, pushing me to find a source of light. I felt my way through the cramped space, palms brushing against cold wood and rough edges. I was inside the treehouse, but somehow it felt wrong, as if the room had warped. With a quick flick of my phone, the screen illuminated my immediate surroundings. The glow revealed more carvings on the treehouse walls. What I initially thought were just scratches turned into figures and words. I squinted, trying to decipher the jumble. Help us, one carving read, the letters jagged and uneven. Dark lines twisted around the words, resembling vines. My heart dropped. I needed to get out, to escape this oppressive space. But that nagging feeling that the tree held the answers kept me rooted in place. Suddenly I heard it, a muffled sound, faint at first, but unmistakable. Help us, it echoed from somewhere outside. The voice of a child. Panic surged through me. Who was calling? I had to find them. I turned away from the treehouse, deciding to push through the door I had just opened. Each step felt like a reminder of the looming shadow that had been chasing me. I stepped through and found myself back in the familiar darkness of my brother's room. But this time everything felt more tangible. In the center of the room stood an old wooden desk, cluttered with items I recognized: crumpled drawings, scattered toys, and an old clock that ticked loudly, reminding me of the passage of time. But there was something else. A faint light flickered from outside the window, a warm and inviting glow that contrasted sharply with the darkened room around me. Drawing closer, I could make out something through the glass: a massive tree in the backyard, its branches twisting against the night sky. It looked alive, pulsating almost, as if it held secrets within its bark. The voice called again, clearer this time. Find me under the tree. Fear bubbled in my throat. How was I supposed to know what was hidden beneath? Was it my brother? Could he still be alive? I moved to the window, pressing my palms against the cool glass. But as I did, a shadow flitted past the tree. My breath hitched. The figure, the same one from before. I backed away from the window, heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread, a chill that curled my spine. What did it want? Why was it here? I had to act, to decide if I confront whatever that thing was lurking in the dark with the tree or if I run. Before I could think, I bolted out of the room, my heart thudding in my chest. I rushed down the stairs, the house creaking beneath my hurried steps. As I reached the front door, it swung open on its own. My breath caught. The night air was frigid and thick, but the beckoning glow was stronger now. I stepped outside, driven by desperation. But as I approached the enormous tree, a sudden realization hit. Something was buried beneath its roots. And whatever it was, I was meant to find it. Just then, a bark of laughter erupted from behind me. I turned, heart racing again. Someone was in the yard. I could see the faint outline of another figure in the shadows, punctuated by that eerie light. "You can't turn back now," it whispered, and the ground beneath me seemed to tremble. I was not alone. My heart raced as I faced the looming darkness around the tree. The laughter hung in the air like a taunt, wrapping around me, urging me to play a part in a game I hadn't signed up for. With every breath, the urgency built. I had no idea what lay beneath the roots, but the insistence of the children's whispers echoed in my mind, pushing me forward. "Find me under the tree." Their plea wrapped around me like a lifeline. I focused on the massive trunk, its gnarled roots stretching deep into the earth. I dropped to my knees, ignoring the sharp chill of the damp ground beneath me, and began digging. My fingers clawed through the soil, desperation lending me strength. The earth was hard, resistant, and the night grew heavy with anticipation. Suddenly, I hit something solid, a small, wooden box, weathered and dark. Panic surged through me. Was this what I was meant to find? The laughter echoed again, a cruel reminder of my urgency. I yanked the box free, brushing off the dirt, my hands trembling as I opened it. Inside lay a collection of trinkets, a faded photograph of a boy, a tattered toy truck, and a small, rusted key. I pulled out the photograph, squinting at the image under the flickering moonlight. The boy, with dark hair and sad eyes, it was him. The same child from room 203. My chest tightened with the realization that he had to be connected to whatever malevolent force was haunting Riverbend Hospital. "You have to help us," the voices chimed again, desperate and wistful. I quickly turned over the box's contents, searching for any clue or message. Tucked against the edges, I found a note folded tightly. I held my breath as I unfolded it, my heart pounding. It read, "He watches from the tree. You cannot let him take you." The tension in my chest twisted. He watches from the tree. My thoughts raced. Who was he, the child, or the figure that had pursued me all night? Panic surged. Was it too late? As if in response, shadows danced around me, a mass of writhing forms. The laughter grew louder, surrounding me as I staggered to my feet, clutching the box tight against my chest. I looked up to see the shadowy figure emerging from the darkness, its featureless face locked on me with a sinister intensity. I took a step back, fear anchoring my feet in place. But then I remembered the catatonic embrace the children had called out against me. "You can't take me," I shouted, confronting the riddled aura of malice threatening to engulf me. The laughter turned into a frustrated snarl, and as the figure lunged forward, I had to act. With instinct taking over, I tossed the key towards the root of the tree. "I won't let you," I yelled, defiance coursing through me. The key skidded across the soil, stopping inches from the base of the trunk. The shadows stuttered, almost recoiling. I took a chance and followed the key's path, diving towards it. I could feel the darkness pressing in, swirling around me like a storm, but I seized the key and thrust it into the soil. "You'll never have them. I'll protect them." As the key sank into the ground, a shimmering light erupted from its depths, momentarily blinding. I shielded my eyes, and when the light faded, I found myself standing alone beneath the tree, the shadows retreating slowly, as if pulled back into the night from which they came. I turned, breathless, scanning the surrounding dark. The laughter had vanished, replaced with a profound silence. But the sense of urgency remained. The voices were still present, echoing softly in the recesses of my mind. A guttural whisper breathed a final warning: "You can't let them take you away." I backed away slowly, realizing I might have won this round but uncertain of what the fallout might be. The fear and sadness wrapped around me like a thick cloak, consuming me as I fled back toward the hospital. In the days that followed, things at Riverbend returned to mundane normalcy. I found solace in the routine, but that boy and the mystery of the other children remained unbroken pieces of my memory. The laughter, the whispers, were they gone for good? I never went back to the pediatric wing. I never stepped foot into room 203 again. Sometimes, especially at night, I sense a childlike presence behind me, a soft pull in my chest that won't let go. I still think of that night occasionally, wondering if I truly helped those souls or if I simply pushed their cries deeper into shadow. I try to convince myself it was just a long and vivid dream, or maybe it was just a story I told myself, one that still keeps its claws in me. The truth is, I moved away without knowing if I truly escaped. The whispers still linger on the edge of my mind, a haunting reminder of unanswered questions and shadows left behind.